There's a mic. Yeah, it's on. I just.
Maybe they could have one each.
Adults for this for kids, right?
All right, so let's start with the salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As-salatu was-salamu ala Muhammad wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My goodness. Normally if there was children, I'd say, I can't hear you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So in front of you, you have a Qur'an City map, which we've gone through before. So we built it out of Lego. I'll bring it one day when you've got, maybe after the summer holidays, when it's a bit easier. And if you look at that map, just as a recap, it's divided into suburbs. You have all the 114 Suwer on it. We've gone through it, we've gone through each of the suburbs. If you actually go through the past videos, you'll be able to see them on it. And I asked you at the back of the map to try and fill that in without looking at the front. So hopefully you've tried to do that. There's an overview of Qur'an City. We've been through this all the way through, so I'm going to go right down to what we're going to do today, which is, in essence, we've been looking at Qur'an City Centre. So all those suburbs actually go around that city centre. And that city centre, all the 4 surah in that city centre focus on the Qur'an. And they answer the questions of who, how, when, and what. Last term, or last month, we did Surah Al-Furqan, which looked at who you are if you reject the Qur'an and who you are if you accept the Qur'an. And we looked over at that building, we went through it in detail. Again, if you want to recap and go back to the video, you'll be able to see it. But today we're going to do Surah Al-Alaq, okay? So many of you have a Qur'an City book. In your book, Surah Al-Alaq is on page 212 and 213, okay? And we're going to go through each of the ayat. But before that, we're going to go through what we normally do, which is look at the surah, look at its focus, and then look at each of the sections. So the surah is called Al-Alaq. It's surah number 96. Alaq literally means, it says clot. That's normal, the translation that's there. But it comes from alika, which is something that hangs on. There's 19 ayat. It's a Makki surah. In fact, the first 5 ayat are known as the first 5 that were revealed to the Prophet. We've divided it into 4 sections. Okay. And before that, let me go into the focus. So the focus basically tells you, if you want to get close to the Creator, you have to awaken your intelligence and awaken it with reading and learning. And then it's talking about submission as well. I think this microphone is quite loud. And that basically is your focus. So if you're now going to look at the 4 sections, the first section talks about awakening the intelligence and how to do it. Every human being's got some intelligence. It's how you awaken it that makes a difference. The second section looks at rebelliousness towards divinity, why we don't want to awaken the intelligence, why we don't want to submit. The third is a historical example of a person who was both generous, who was wise, who was actually known as Abu al-Hakam, the father of wisdom. And yet the Prophet called him Abu Jahl, okay, the father of ignorance, for specific reasons, and we'll go into it. And finally, how do I cure this ignorance? So we're going to look at each of those sections, but we'll go through ayah by ayah like we've been doing all the other times. There we go. Starts off with, like everybody knows, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You all know this, and I'm not going to go into that. So this is the first ayah, Iqra. The word Iqra, when it was revealed, that's the first order to humanity. The first order wasn't pray, wasn't fast, wasn't anything. It was Iqra. That was the first commandment. And it changed the life of absolutely everyone. Iqra literally means 5 things. Read, internalize, understand, apply, and teach. It's not just, as in the Khoja language, we say pare and pare and pare. It's not just read and read and read. Iqra has a completely different connotation. It was responsible for creating so many libraries. It was responsible for the Arabs who at that time believed in just memorization to change their way of life, because it meant read, I'll specify that again, read, internalize, people call it memorize, understand, apply, and teach. Now he says, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Read, do all those things in the name of your Rabb. And the Arabs had not heard Rabb. They'd heard Allah. They knew who Allah was. But to them, a master, Lord is not the right word. It's actually master, or somebody who looks after you, sustains you, takes you to your full potential. But they couldn't understand that. And the other thing they couldn't understand was, it was this master that created, a little bit. The Arabs believed that God created you, then gave you free will, and you could do what the heaven you liked. But the very fact that Rabb was used, that meant master. Somebody who's now going to tell you how to reach your full potential. So to them, they understood who the creator was, but they would not understand that this creator would tell me what to do. And that really riled them. So, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. And it is because of this that you and I, before reciting anything, any divine guidance, anything from the Qur'an, we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, because of that verse over there. Okay? So, what you have in front of you is a chart of Asma al-Husna. It's not my topic today. It's not something that I'm going to go on to today. However, you have to replace the word ism here with one of these. Every time you say Bismillah or Bismillah Rahman Rahim, you've got to replace it. If I was giving my child medication, the ism in my head would be Ya Shafi. Ya Shafi is not part of this, but there are lots of names. These 99 are really important, and we will at one stage go on to them. In fact, I'll give you some homework to do just as we finished, or rather work that you will do here, and then we'll see how far you get. The chart on there is not very clear, but the chart you've got in your hands is quite clear. So if I were to ask you that right now, which number of asma or ism would you use to be able to understand this lesson? Pick something out of your chart. You've got your chart here. I need numbers, okay? Just so that it helps you. All the blue ones relate to knowledge. Can't be that difficult. So to be able to understand the lesson of the Qur'an, you may want number 19. You may want Alim. You may want to be able to have Zahir and Batin, because Batin is you want to know the hidden aspects of the Qur'an. Maybe you know Zahir, you want to at least know the top way, or I could say the uppermost meaning, if I can say theoethics of the Qur'an. But all these should be replaced. The moment you say, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, the ism should be replaced. If I'm going to the gym, or if I'm going to do something I'm doing physically, I will need strength. So have a look at your chart again. Maybe you will look at 69. Maybe you will look at 70. Maybe you look at Qawi, which is strong, 53. But these names should be known and replaced as you go along. Okay, section 2. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Then he was told, khalaqal insana min alaq. The human being was created from something that attached itself. It's talking about physical. The first way to look at it is looking at the physical, where a child is produced, whereby the ovum attaches itself to the lining of the womb. But the ulama tell us that the human being cannot progress or grow unless he or she attaches himself to Allah. So alika is to hang on. They call it a leech as well. So khalaqal insana min alaq. Again, iqra. Wa rabbukal akram. Only 2 places in the Quran where akram is used. Only 2. And only here is it used in relationship with Allah. Otherwise, for example, akram is used, inna akramakum indallahi أتقاكم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. This is not Kareem. Oh, by the way, can you look at your Asmaul Husna chart? Where's Kareem? Find it. Come on. Kareem is somewhere. It's in the 40s. 42, there you go. So Akram is not like Kareem. For example, Akbar is not like Kabir. It is greater than. So here Allah is saying, Ikra, if you read, if you internalized, if you understood, if you applied and taught, then your Rabb is Akram. He is more honorable than anything or anyone. The honor you will get from doing this matches no other honor in the world, or no other honor anyway. Everything else stays, power, wealth, etc. But knowledge goes nowhere. So let me give you an example. Maybe I'll go to, if you knew, give me some scholars' names. Anybody know any scholars' names? Give me any scholar's name. Anyone you know. Sorry? Bahjat? Is that what you meant? Ayatollah Bahjat. So at the time of Ayatollah Bahjat, who was the most richest person in Iran? Do you know? What else? You don't, do you? Who was the governor of the place he lived in? You don't know. He had the most power. Yet you know him because of his knowledge. So basically what he's saying is here is that you're attached to the greatest university in the world, which is the University of Divinity. And therefore, if you want to have kirama, which is, if you want to have honor, that's the only way to get it. Okay, we'll talk about it a bit later. Alladhi allama bil kalam. He taught with the pen. If generations before had not recorded what we have today, we wouldn't have anything. The Quran did not begin with writing. It wasn't writing at all. It was gathered later. The Quran was a conversation. It wasn't like the tablets of Musa. That was writing, that was brought down. The Quran started with a conversation. So he's saying you learned because people of the past wrote down. So I'm going to go back to you. How many times do you write things down? And do you keep them for your progeny to read, or your friends to read, or whatever? So he says, Alladhi allama bil kalam. The only way you will learn is by something that is written. Allama al insana ma lam ya'lam. He taught the human being what the human being did not know. The human being does not know that he or she can reach a potential far higher than anybody else knows. In fact, far higher than he or she thinks he can reach. So he's saying, Allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. The Arabs at that time, and human beings today as well, kind of stop somewhere. They think, I can't go further than this. He's saying you're unaware for your potential for knowledge. It's way up there. So now this is section 2. I'll go back to section 1, and hopefully you know it. Let's see how many times he talks about it. Iqra, that says it once here. Ayah 2. Iqra again. Allama here, and allama again. So the whole aspect of section 1 is you cannot reach your full potential unless you have some sort of education. Right, second section. So if you look at your building in your book, it says why you don't learn and why you don't read divine guidance. It says, Kalla, innal insana la yatgha. Tell you why the human being does not reach his full potential, why he doesn't want to learn, because he crosses the limits knowingly. It's too difficult for him. It's easy to do things the way he wants, right? It's a problem. He rebels. Now first Allah gives you the problem. Then he tells you why. Why does a human being cross the limits? Because he sees himself as Ghani. Can you, in your Asma al-Husna charts, find the name of Allah which is Ghani? Tell me what number. Come on. It's purple, just to make it easy for you. It's near the end, makes it even easier for you. 88. So Ghani is someone who is free of need. So the human being thinks that he doesn't need God. He doesn't need any divine guidance because he knows what is best for him. I've been in Muharram, there have been quite a few majalis that I've been reciting, and always somebody comes up with a question as, I don't understand this. It doesn't sit well with my heart and soul, so I don't think I should do it. It's not to do with you. It's not because it doesn't sit well with you, right? So that's something. You know, he thinks he can make his own decisions, which is a common problem with the Arabs. It's a common problem with all of us as well. Inna ila rabbika ruj'a. So now he gives you a solution. I'll go back again. It's a problem. Cross the limits. Why? Because I don't need anything. I don't need to learn. I don't need to learn the Quran. I don't need God. I don't need divine guidance. And then he says, this is the solution. Inna ila rabbika ruj'a. You do know that you will be returned to your Rabb and you are accountable. The moment accountability comes into my head and into your head, into everybody's head, then that is the solution. So his solution, his camera is always on. He's always watching. You're recorded for everything you're doing. I'm recorded for everything I'm doing. So that's section 2. I'll go back again, just so that we have it right. So section 2 tells me the problem with a human being not wanting to learn divine guidance, not wanting to learn the Quran, not wanting to learn what the Prophet said, is because he's rebellious. And he's rebellious because he thinks he can get away with it. I don't know how many times you've seen speed cameras, but on Waze it actually tells you whether the speed camera is working or not. And if it's not working, you may try to cross it a bit further than you should because you're not going to get caught. And then he says, hello, I'm watching. Inna ila rabbika ruj'a. Okay. Now there is a historical example. I'm going to talk about Amr bin Hisham. Very wise. People used to, he was known as the father of wisdom. People used to go to him, and he used to make some really good decisions for the Makkans. He was generous, he was wise, he was intelligent, he was good looking, and he was the Prophet's uncle. So he had everything. He had the power in Makkah. So Allah says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى. Have you seen the person who refuses? Why? Well, he thought that the human being was created in the best of make, which Allah says. خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ عَلَقٍ here. Where does it say it's made in the best of make? Anybody? لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. So he believed that. And he said, how can a human being who's created as such a wonderful creation put their head down on the ground? That's what animals do, not what human beings do. And he said, what are you talking about, Muhammad? And he said, if anybody sees Muhammad puts his head down on the ground, put your leg on his neck, put your foot on his neck. He cannot do that because he's demeaning himself. So he said, Allah says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى. By the way, Ra'ah is to see, and you'll see a lot of that in this surah. Can you find the Asma of Husna, which says Allah sees, which is Basir? It's in blue, by the way. It's near the top. There you go, 27, yeah. So, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى. Now Allah is pointing to the historical figure. Do you see this person who refuses? عَبْدًا إِذَا صَلَّى. When an abd of mine prays. See, he threatened. In fact, some ahadiths which I've put on there, they say that when he saw nobody was going forward, he went to put his foot on the Prophet's neck. And suddenly he just walked back. And he had a gang of people, and they said, "Whoa, what happened? I thought you were going to go put your foot on his neck." And he said, "Well, I don't know. I saw a monster there. I just couldn't cross over." أَرَأَيْتَ إِنْ كَانَ عَلَى الْهُدَى. Now, you see the recognition of which divinity says, if you just thought for a minute, this man had everything going his way. He had wealth, he had wisdom, he had generosity. If he was on the right way, أَوْ أَمَرَ بِالتَّقْوَى, and if he was intelligent enough to recognize divine guidance and not arrogant, how wonderful would it have been? Then he said, أَرَأَيْتَ إِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. But you see what you see, and this is addressed to the Prophet. Do you not see that not only does he belie divine guidance, he denies it. You know what tawalla means? To run away from perfection. So he's actually running away. He was too arrogant to admit that that made sense. Okay? So his problem was arrogance. Now Allah says this solution for him. Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. So all those before that, all those was telling the Prophet, Ara'aita. There you go. Ara'aita. And then again, Ara'aita. And then again, Ara'aita. But now he says, Alam ya'lam bi anna Allah yara. Does he not know that Allah is watching him? Kalla. If he doesn't stop, because he was threatening the Prophet, La illam yantahi, we will grab him. La nasfa'am bin nasiya, we will grab him by the forehead. This is a place where all your intelligence is, right? So we will take this thing that he thinks he's so arrogant about away from him. Does he not realize that? We'll be able to take it away. His pride, his dignity, his mind, his knowledge. We can take everything away. This is why you do sajda, by the way. Okay? Nasiyatin qadibatin khatiya. Not only does he lie, I don't like the word, sinful is a bit difficult, but khatiya, he's in total error. Total error. Because he's thinking, he's logifying his thinking. How can a human being go into sajda? I'll give another example of the Arabs. They used to bury their daughters alive. And they had a skewed form of thinking. So their thinking was that if women are used and abused, I don't want my daughter to be used and abused. Therefore, the best thing to do is to put her under the earth. That was a skewed form of thinking, which caught on. In the same way, this was his skewed form of thinking. How can a human being put his head on the earth? So he said now that I'm going to get all the council, that means all my cronies, all my gangsters with me, and I'm going to call them. And they will stop Muhammad from putting his head down on the ground. I cannot see my nephew put his head down on the ground. Allah says, let him do that. So there we went. He's calling his gang. He says, let him do that. Sanad'u Zabaniya. We will call our people. Now, Zabaniya in Arabic is like an anti-riot police, maybe it's the best way I can put it. People with shields and water guns and whatever, and they break up riots. So Allah says, we will call our army. Sanad'u Zabaniya. Kalla. So now he's taught. But I'm not going to read the whole ayah. I'm going to translate it in English, otherwise you'll all have to go into sajda, which is not a bad idea. It's good, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely right. So if you hear this live, you've got to go straight into sajda. You know that? And it doesn't matter. You don't need the qibla, nothing. You're just going to sajda. I'm going to go into English. So Allah is telling him, if I'd like you to imagine, there's a prophet in Makkah, his town, suddenly all the cronies, all the most important people, because this guy, father of wisdom, he's an important guy. And all his cronies, there's a whole gang of them who hate him because he's putting his head on the ground. And Abul Hakam has actually convinced them that that is the wrong thing to do. So there's this lone man facing all these people. There's a few supporters, but he's on his own. And Allah is saying, Kalla, don't Just don't pay attention to him. Ita'ah means bare minimum of following, but ita'ah also means listening to someone, paying attention to someone. So he's saying, Kalla la tuta'hu. Just don't follow him. And the solution to all your problems is to do sajda so you can get close to Allah. It's such an amazing surah. So this is also known as Suratul Salah. Because you start off by Iqra. When you stand in a rak'ah, you stand off by reciting Qur'an. And then you end your rak'ah by doing sajda. So that's known as Suratul Salah as well. I'll go back over it again. So you need to be able to read this all the time. There we go. So, Iqra, to be able to awaken intelligence, read. Read, internalize, understand, apply, and teach. Khalaqal insana min alaq, you all know that. If you don't attach yourself to Allah, it doesn't work. Read if you want honor. See, people who go to universities, if you went to Oxford and Cambridge and even came out with something that wasn't a first or a second, you can still say, I went to Oxford and Cambridge. There's a name tag attached to it, right? In the same way, he says, you want honor, attach yourself to my knowledge. Alladhi allama bil kalam, which you know, I talked about it. Allama al insana ma lam ya'lam. So the first section, if I want to reach my full potential, if I want to be able to be close to Allah, I need to awaken my intelligence. Section 2, the reason why I don't do it is because I like to cross lines. And I think I don't need it. Basically, that's the thing, and he says the solution is accountability. Section 3 gives you the example of a person who was known as a phenomenal person, but you can see what he did. And finally, section 4, which is the last ayah, don't pay attention to any of them and do sajda. Sajda is the highest place where you can be heard. So it may be the lowest place physically, but it's the highest place where you can be. Now what I'd like you to do is look at your Asmaul Husna charts and circle, if you've got pens, or write down every single ism that is connected to this surah. I'll go over it with you. So for example, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Now near Allah, right at the top, you will write Rabb. If you were to put all the Asmaul Husna in a pot and melted them, out would come Allah. If you want to personalize Allah, you would put Rabb. That's right at the top. It's not part of the 99. If you look at the Qur'an, every single prophet called Allah by Rabb. Rabbana, Rabbik Firli. It's personalized. Rabbi, my Rabb. Nowhere will you see Rahmani or Rahimi or Maliki or nothing. So if you want to personalize something, it's got to be Rabb. And therefore you saw in the first ayah, they had no idea who this Rabb was, right? Let's go back. There you go. They knew God. They knew Allah. They were asked, Man khalaqa as-samawati wal ard, they would say Allah. But Rabb, they didn't know. So if you want to personalize anything, Allah and Rabb are synonymous. So right in the top, you'll write Rabb. All right, let's go to the next one. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. What name of Allah comes here? Khaliq, find it. Find it and circle it. Brown is creation. Can't go that wrong. You got it? 11. Yep. Okay. Khalaqal insana min alaq. Again, you've got Khaliq. Iqra wa rabbukal akram. Now you've got two names. Kareem and Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. Can you find them for me, please? Okay. There you go. 42 and? Yep, 85. Alladhi allama bil kalam. Al-alim. Now if you look at alim, all the blues go with knowledge. So you could circle them. Allama al-insana ma lam ya'lam. Again, you've got alim. But all the blues in there are with knowledge. You good? Okay. Kalla. Yep, all of them. And we can, we'll go over them another time. Kalla innal insana la yatgha. Ar-ra'ahu istaghna. Allah is basir. You've got that, right? Inna ila rabbikar ruj'a. Okay. So is there a name here that you can find that you would return to Allah? Anywhere you can see something? When do you return to Allah? There is a mumit there. If you look, there's muhyi and there's mumit. They're in brown. 61. That's right. Okay. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يَنْهَى, you've got ra'a again, which is basir. عَبْدًا إِذَا صَلَّى, you've got a servant when he prays. أَرَأَيْتَ إِنْ كَانَ عَلَى الْهُدَى, how about hidayah? Have you got al-hadi somewhere?
94.
Well done. 94. Well done. Okay. So you've got hadi. أَوْ أَمَرَ بِالتَّقْوَى, أَرَأَيْتَ إِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى أَلَمْ يَعْلَمْ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ يَرَى. You've got those names covered. كَلَّا لَئِن لَمْ يَنْتَهِ لَنَسْفَعًا بِالنَّاصِيَةِ نَاصِيَةٍ كَاذِبَةٍ خَاطِئَةٍ فَلْيَدْعُ النَّادِيَةَ سَنَدْعُ الزَّبَانِيَةَ. Now, where do you have a name which would go with dua? Any name that would go with dua? With dua, yeah. So I would say something like Mujib. You can actually look for it. It's so cute. 44, that's right. Yeah. So he says, we will call ours. Then, absolutely right. Okay. And then that's the last ayah. So let me end with one thing about Asma al-Husna. We had a little girl, a 5-year-old at workshop. She came one day and she said, Ummi auntie, I'm going to Jannah. And I thought, wow, that's so cool. And with a lot of confidence that only 5-year-olds can have. So I said, okay, can you take me with you? Because you can take 10 people. Hadith of the Prophet. So she must have gone mom, dad, brother, sister, friend. And then she had a couple of places. So she said, yeah, I suppose so. So I said, but if you teach me how you're so confident about going to Jannah, then I can take 10 more and it'll just go on. So she said, it's simple. It's the book you gave us at the end of term. And it was a book we gave them on Asma al-Husna. And at the back it said, anybody who internalizes the names of Allah, the 99 names, is definitely Ahlul Jannah. And wala aqulu inshallah, and I don't even say inshallah. And she said, that's how I know. And she knew every single one, but she knew them by saying, you and I have got to internalize them. Because the Prophet said, تَخَلُّقُ بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ, adopt in yourself the akhlaq of Allah. So really important when you say, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq, that we learn this. So hopefully we shall go over each one every time we do a surah with you. But today I'd like to end off with going through some mnemonics with you, which I promised. Sorry. Sure, go for it. It's not Lord. It's Master, Cherisher, Nourisher, Sustainer, all that. I don't know where Lord came. I think it's, the translation is basically Orientalist translation. Lord, it doesn't even match it, right? But also, the moment you think Rabb or Master, you think slave, which is right. But the moment you think slave, you think of the human version of slave. The divine version of slave is somebody who submits to Allah and therefore doesn't have to worry about anything else. Everything is sorted. That is why that last ayah is so important. And we go into sajda. On that note, before I go there, in your books, you've got at the end what you would say in wajib sajda, yes? You should have it. I'm hoping. Page 257. When you hear an ayah of Qur'an, if you hear it on a tape recorder or that used to be old school, but if you hear it on YouTube or something that's pre-recorded, you don't have to go into sajda. If you hear it live, then you have to go into sajda. Now there's 4 ayat of the Qur'an that you need to know, and they're in 4 surahs. So we've got a mnemonic there as well. So when a star is born, do 2 sajdas. Star is Najm, born is Alaq, and then the 2 sajda, Surah Al-Sajda and Surah Al-Fussilat, which is known as Hamim Sajda. And then there's 10, which is Mustahab. And you've got them down on page 257. When you come to them in the Qur'an, it is good to go into sajda. If you can't go into sajda, bow your head. Do I have to recite all these recitations? No. Is it recommended you do? Yes. You could just go into sajda and say Subhanallah, it doesn't matter. But if you went into the whole thing, La ilaha illallah, haqqan haqqa, la ilaha illallah, we've learnt it as we were children, then all the more better. Okay, so if you learn to page 257, it's really cool. So that's your wajib sajda in Surah Al-Alaq. Right, now what I said we would do last time is go over maybe one section of the mnemonics. The mnemonics was a methodology of being able to memorize the names of surah in sequence. Surah, as you can call it, I'll call it surah in sequence. When we started this, we found that whether it was 4.5-year-olds or 8-year-olds, they could actually do it. You can make up your own stories. I think those of you who've done medicine, and I've got somebody over there, but you may learn mnemonics to be able to learn something. I think rainbow. Didn't we learn the colors of the rainbow like that? Richard of York gained battles in vain. Isn't that right? Red, orange. No. Did you not learn that? Maybe you learned something else. But hey, I learned it that way. So here we go. There's a link system, and that's memorization. Okay. So we're going to look at surahs 1 to 10. So the focus points you have, first you have a focus point. So you know number 4 is Nisa, because allegedly everybody says that you're allowed to have 4 wives. Can't even manage 1, but they want 4. Okay, so there you go. All right. Then you have Suratul A'raf. It's surah number 7. Do you know 7 up? You do. So you know the moment you think number 7, it is up. Are you good? Okay. And then you know number 10, because if you wrote a 10 and you write a Y in it, you'd know who was in the belly of the fish, which was Yunus. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Okay, what was number 4? Women. What was 7? Up. What was 10? There you go. All right, now we're going to go through a story. There you go. So imagine you're in Stanmore, because you don't have another floor upstairs, but imagine you had a floor up here. So when the doors opened, you saw beef burgers. Don't look at that, that's done years ago. So you saw beef burgers. And when you saw these beef burgers, you said, who the heaven donated beef burgers? The family of Imran. And as you came into the door, there were these 4 very stern volunteers, women. They look like penguins, all black. Sorry. You're supposed to wear black, but hey, all black. They're standing there and they said, today everything's going to be served on tables. Oh, you got it? Door opened. What did you smell or see? Beef burgers. Who were donated by? Al Imran. And you saw 4 women, you know number 4 anyway, and they were going to serve it on tables. Now, on smelling those beef burgers, like cattle, people came from upstairs. You remember 7 was up. They came from upstairs. And they thought, yo, free. Free food for everyone. But when they realized their error, it was only for the senior citizens, they did tawbah like Yunus. All right, let's go to opening is Fatiha. Free for all. Okay. Fatiha. What did they see? Baqarah. Beef, you say beef burgers, it's fine. Al Imran. 4 was Nisa. 5 was table. 6 was An'am. 7 was A'raf, because you know 7 up, right? 8, cattle, whatever you want to say, right? Was it cattle? No, you're right. Go on. 8. Spoils of 4, right? 9, they did tawbah like Yunus. It's a crazy story, but kids hooked onto it, and they knew exactly what these surahs were, because they went through these mnemonics. 11 to 15. Hud, you know, if you write 11 and you put a line through it, it becomes H. Right? So Hud and Yusuf were 2 friends. And then they heard this noise like thunder. They went to investigate what it was, and it was Ibrahim breaking the stone idols. What is 11? Hud. 12 is Yusuf. What did they hear? Thunder, which is 13. Okay, what did they see? Ibrahim, which is 14. You can even remember Ibrahim as the father of all the Masumeen. Okay, and then 15, he was breaking the stone idols, and 15 is Hijr. Are you good? All right, so if I stop there, what is 1? The doors opened. What did they see? Beef burgers. Who was it donated by? Al Imran. What were those 4 women, basically, Nisa? They put it on a table. Good? Okay. 6. What happened? Cattle. Like cattle, they came from upstairs. And you know 7 up, right? 8, they thought it was spoils of war. When they realized the error, what did they do? Tawbah. Tawbah like Yunus. Let's go over them. Fatiha, right? Al Imran, Nisa, Ma'idah, An'am, Araf, Anfal, Tawbah, Yunus. And here, 11 you know is Hud. You've got those pegs. 11, you know it's Hud. So you know Hud and Yusuf were friends. And they, when they heard the thunder, which is 13, you can also remember 13 is thunder. Imam Ali was born on the 13th. And with thunder comes rain. You can't. Okay. Rahma, yes. Ibrahim, you know 14, and the stone idols. Can you see how this works now? You can make your own mnemonics. It's okay. These were made ages ago. So here we go, 16 to 20. Okay. So we'll start off with 16. In this country, 16 is known as sweet 16. What is sweet? Honey. Who makes honey? bees. So you know surah number 16 now, right? Okay. Then you have 17. If you draw an arrow going up to the 7 heavens, you know 17 is Isra. Because Mi'raj. Are you good? Okay. Isra wal Mi'raj. And then 18, you know, here in this country, 18, you become an adult. So you got to come out of your parents' house and make your own cave. You good? They don't go, even when they're 38. Okay. So you have 16, 17, and 18. So now you say the bees, when they saw Isra, they swarmed into the cave, and when they peeped out, and they looked up, because the Prophet was in Mi'raj, they saw Maryam meeting Taha. Now we had a lot of problems with this one, because they said, Na mahram. How can Maryam meet Prophet Muhammad? They had a problem with this. But at least they remembered. I won't tell you what happened, but at least they remembered. They never forgot that Maryam met Taha. Are you good? I told them it was a distance. Oh, we made all sorts of stories, really, okay? That's it. Whatever way works for you. But with these mnemonics, within an hour, if we did them for an hour, they all knew the names from 1 to 114. Okay, so let's start. 1, open. 2, beef burgers. 3, Imran. 4, women. 5, table. 6, animals. 7, up. It's okay to say that. 8, okay, spoils of 4. 9, Tawbah. 10, Yunus. 11, Hud. 12, Yusuf. What did they hear? 13, Imam Ali. Thunder and rain. 14, Ibrahim. 15, Hijr. 16, sweet 16. You got it? 17, Isra. 18, cave. 19, Maryam. 20, Taha. You already know 20. Are you good? We'll continue with them next time I come. We'll just keep on doing them. Then hopefully you will know all 114. They're all on the presentation. I don't know if they can be emailed to you or whatever it can be done to you. Maybe as a PDF, we could email it and you can have a look. Are you good? Right, any questions? Can we have a salawat, please? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraja. Before I go questions, just like to look at this for 2 minutes, okay? So I said Allah and Rabb was synonymous. When 2 words in Arabic are put together that are similar, it's to accentuate their difference. So if you look at your chart, I'm going to go back here. I don't think you can see it here, but let's go back and see where we are. Okay. So when 2 words that are similar are put together, it's to accentuate their difference. And maybe the way I can put it is, if I asked one of my children to bring me a scarf, and I said, bring me a blue scarf. If I had only one blue scarf, it's quite easy. But if I said, bring a blue scarf, and I have 9 shades of blue, I have to actually tell them the difference between them. So the 3 that go together are Rahman, Rahim, and Ra'uf. Can you find Ra'uf for me, please? Come on, you have to look for it. It's in the 80s. Come on, Ishaq, you can do it. 83. So Rahman, Rahim, and Ra'uf are the 3 R's. Rahman, and I hate it when we say kind and merciful. Rahman is immediate. Rahman can be temporary. And Rahman is for all. A bit like a dentist. Rahman is there for everyone. Rahim, you have to subscribe to. It's like a hygienist. So Rahim is like a hygienist. It's continuous and it's constant, right? But it's not necessarily temporary, it's more permanent. So Rahman, Rahim, are you good with that? Yeah. And then you have Ra'uf. Rahman and Rahim come with pain. They may be called guidance, but they come with pain. Ra'uf has no pain. Ra'afa means no pain at all. So when you're really stuck in life and you want his rahmah, which is basically guidance, you want Rahman, Rahim, and Ra'uf. In the world, there are 3 types of Ra'uf. One of them is the Prophet. In the Qur'an, he's known as one who is Ra'uf, who feels very, very hurt when he sees those who submit to Allah hurt. The other one is Imam Rida, and I'll just go over it very quickly. Imam Rida, when Sheikh Bahai was building the Haram in Iran, he told the builder, do not put the door into the actual grave of Imam Rida until I come in the morning, because I want to put something there which will stop anybody who is a major sinner to get through. At night, the builder sees a dream, and he sees Imam Rida, and Imam Rida said, before Fajr, I want you to go and put that door frame in. But he said, Sheikh Bahai said, no. So he told him stuff that only an Imam would know. So the builder goes early, puts the frame in. Sheikh Bahai comes in the morning and sees the frame in, and he says, but I told you not to do it. So he said, but this is what Imam told me to do, and I did it. And Sheikh Bahai understood, and he rested his head on the frame, and he said, you are definitely Imam al-Ra'uf. So when you want to ask Allah in the name of, when you want rahmah without pain, you ask him with the wasila of Imam Rida. And finally, the people in your life that are Ra'uf are known as Rafiq. You all know Lion King. There's Rafiq in it, right? It's a Quranic word. It's come from mirfaq. Mirfaq in the Quran is a cushion that you lean on. Rafiqi is a friend that you lean on. So in the world, Ra'uf is represented by Rafiq. So those are the 3 R's. Yes? They balance each other, but he's more Ra'uf than Shadidul Iqab. You're too harsh. You've been listening to too many people who are harsh. Fine, that's it. Stop there. Yeah, okay. Rahman, Rahim, and Ra'uf. People always ask for Ism Azam. Yes? The 2 from which all the names come from are Ya Hayyu and Ya Qayyum. Battle of Badr. Can you find Hayy and Qayyum? We've actually highlighted them. When in the Battle of Badr, Imam Ali said that he... Well done. Well done. So Imam Ali said that in the Battle of Badr, he went to see what the Prophet was reciting all the time. And the Prophet was always reciting, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum. Prophet Musa, when he comes to the Red Sea, and there's Fir'aun behind him, and they tell him, Inna lamughramun, we're gone, khalas. And he says, Kalla, Inna ma'aya Rabbi Sayahdeen. My Rabb will guide us through it. That is Surah number 26, ayah number 62. When he hits his staff on the sea to make a path, he says, Ya Allah, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum. And the dua is, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, bi rahmatika astaghithu. When you're really stuck, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum, bi rahmatika astaghithu. I teach children that all the time, because this is like stuff that's like, it's like that guy who was sitting in front of a statue and said, Ya Sanam, Ya Sanam, Ya Sanam. And then his eyes closed and he said, Ya Samad. And Prophet Musa said, because Allah says, Labayk Ya Abdi. And Prophet Musa said, Ya Allah, he actually wasn't calling you, he made a mistake. As though Allah didn't know. But Allah replies to say, even if somebody calls me by these names in mistake, I will still answer. So Ya Hayyu Qayyum are good ones to know. The other ones that are known as Ism Azam is the one that we talked about, which is 85, Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. The ulama, the scholars tell us that before any name of Allah, you should say Ya Allah, Ya Rabbi, Ya Dhul Jalali wal Ikram, and then whether it's Ya Mujib or Ya Salam or Ya Quddus or whatever there is. Are you good with that? Ya Rabbi, Ya Dhul Jalali wal Ikram. And then add on whatever you want. And obviously, Ya Hayy and Ya Qayyum are phenomenal. Okay? You want a dua answered, you will use Ya Mujib. Because if you look at the top of your charts, it's Surah number 7, ayah 180. And the way you remember it is 7 days a week, you want to make 180 turn towards Allah. Okay? وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى فَادْعُوهُ بِهَا. You, for Him, are the most excellent attributes. You want to do dua? Do this. Most people don't like these long, drawn things to read. I'm not saying don't read them. Please do. However, if you learn the Asma al-Husna, you can personalize it. Number 2, the reason why I brought it today was when you're reading the Quran, almost every ayah that you want to work through will end with 2 Asma al-Husna. Whether it's Aliyul Hakim, Ghafurur Rahim, whatever it is. Only Surah Al-Jumu'ah in the first ayah, Yusabbihu lillahi ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. Al-Malikul, Quddusul, Azizul, Hakim. That's probably the only one that has 4, but that's for another day. Are you good with that? Sorry? Yes, you would say that too. Are you good? Okay. So next time we meet, we will do the other 2 surahs, which is Qadr and Bayyina, and that will complete Qur'an City Centre. But we will continue doing this, so please learn them, and we'll continue picking them up as we go along. And hopefully you will know all 99. and you may want to take me to Jannah with you. Okay, all right. Can we end with the Surah Al-Fatiha? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Sadaqallahul Azim.